Matt Hageman's here today to show us what his magic sauce is in converting our JCI Metasys projects to Niagara. Super excited to see this one. Thank you, Matt.
All right. Thanks, Nicole. Appreciate it. As Nicole said, my name is Matthew Hagemann. My company is Kander, and we focus on JCI database conversions. So the idea is that you get us a backup of the JCI Metasys system, and we use that to produce complete N4 stations so that your JACE can become a plug-and-play replacement for the SNE, NAE, NCM, whatever top-level Johnson controller that we're dealing with. So we basically take that entire database conversion part, and with our software tools, we automate that to make that part much easier for you.
No, we'll have an hour soon.
So I have the NVID pre-lunch talk here, so I'm sure you guys are getting hungry and tired of sitting still, so I'll try to keep it relatively quick and then leave some time for questions and answers at the end, so make sure you jot down if you have any questions, and if you don't get to ask them, you can always connect with me later as well. So today we'll go through the landscape, introduce Kander, talk briefly about the customer journey, talk about the benefits to systems integrators, and then, as I mentioned, a time for Q&A. So basically, the thing that got us into the business that we're in is the challenge of proprietary systems. So the thing with proprietary building automation systems, we're seeing a lot of customers that are unhappy with the lockdown nature of it, the limited service options that come with, the narrow growth path, and expensive updates. So we see with a lot of these systems that they're functioning fine, but customers are unhappy either that they can't integrate in something new that they want, or with the service that the OEM is providing, or I think overall, even beyond these challenges as a culture, we're just moving more and more towards wanting things that are open and transparent, customizable. People don't like being locked into to narrow options. So that's the issue that we're dealing with proprietary building automation systems. And over the past 20 years, we've seen a big move away from that. I saw a statistic, I don't remember where it was, but it said that upwards of 80% of new RFPs dictate that it needs to be an open system. So over these past two decades, we've seen sites more and more moving away from these proprietary lockdown systems. So if a site wants to do that, if a site wants to move from a lockdown proprietary system and move over to something open like the Niagara framework, they've basically had two options historically. One is a full rip and replace. So just tearing out the entire system, all of the field devices, and installing a new system. So that definitely works, but it's expensive, inefficient, and lengthy. So we're talking big projects. The customer has to have a huge budget to replace everything. And it just doesn't need to happen. A lot of times these systems, the field devices are functioning great, everything's functioning fine, but they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater in order to move to an open framework. Second option is a manual conversion. So if these sites want to move open and keep all of the field level devices in place, they chop off the head end, the integrator comes in, manually programs the new system, and we've got a tedious, error-prone process that requires expertise in the proprietary system in order to execute. So we've got two options here that aren't great, but previously these were the two options for moving from a lockdown proprietary system to an open framework like Niagara. So that's where we come in. So basically, we started doing this 13 years ago, And over the course of several thousand Johnson Controls database conversions, moving Metasys over to Niagara, we've developed software tools to automate a lot of the process, to build in quality control checks, and just to focus on this one thing. So this is all we do as a company. So we're able to take the tedious, difficult process of a manual conversion. You know, systems integrators, there's basically two big pools that our customers fall into. All right, so one is systems integrators who have a former Johnson Controls employee on staff who knows the Metasys system and can execute these manual conversions and is going through this difficult, tedious process of doing these conversions. So that was like option 2, we talked about the manual conversion. Or systems integrators that shied away from Metasys jobs because they don't have that expertise. So what we do is we come in, you give us the JCI backup, we give you back the N4 stations, so we remove the need for that expertise and take this difficult, tedious process out of your hands and basically just give you that easy button to convert those JCI backups into the N4 stations so that you can drop them in your JACE for that JACE to become the plug-and-play replacement for, again, SNE, NAE, whatever top-level Johnson controller we're dealing with. So we take that difficult, tedious process, take away the headaches from it. It's very cost-effective because we have the process so automated. It compares very favorably to the man hours you spend for engineers to do this work, especially when you consider the support after the fact to fix any mistakes that are made during this manual conversion process. It frees you up to focus on other parts of the project while we're doing this tedious database conversion for you. And it's very quick, again, because we have the process automated, because we've done so many of these, the timelines are very short for these. All right, so we'll kind of run through the customer journey and what that looks like from start to finish. So the first thing we need is a backup of the JCI system. And there's no way around this. This is what our tool takes. We need a backup of the system to insert into our tool. So for any system after, say, 2000, you know, when we're dealing with NAEs or SNEs, NCEs, anything like that, all we need is a single file, right? It's either a .backup or a .db export file of the archive. So we provide step-by-step instructions on how to obtain this file if you don't already have one or don't know how to do that. And then we also offer to schedule an engineer when you're going to have someone on site for phone support in case any questions come up, any hurdles come up, and we don't charge for that database collection support. So make sure to take advantage of that. And I'll insert this here. You know, I've talked to systems integrators who are not interested because they're like, oh, we do these jobs, like we're fine doing these jobs. At least get a price from us, right? Because it might be half of what you're expecting, and then be able to take that off your hands. Again, I can't emphasize how much these automated tools give us the advantage in these conversions because they do so much of the work. So, step 1, getting the JCI system back up. 2, getting a quote. So, you know, we have a Dropbox link that you can drop any backups into. You send us that file, and we're able to turn around a fixed price quote within a business day. So again, because we've done so many of these, we know exactly what it's going to take us. There's no hourly charge or chance for going over. It's a fixed price quote with different line options depending on how you want to scale the project, and you get that within a business day of giving us the backup. All of the pricing is one-time charges. There's no subscriptions. There's no additional licenses that you need in working with us. There's optional add-ons for if you want us to do extra work of whether it's tagging or renaming or new alarming and historical standards. And the cost usually ends up being between $2,000 and $6,000 per engine, just depending on the size of the system and what it's doing. All right, so you got to obtain the JCI backup. You hand that over, we give you a fixed price quote, and then the database conversion. So we have engineers that use our software tools to run the JCI backup through to produce the stations. And then they take time to go through the stations to make sure everything's well organized, looks nice, all of the logic is good and connected, and kind of polish things up, which is the quality assurance portion of that. And put any final touches on the stations, and then delivery and support. So we, as we're doing these conversions, and up front we agree to a timeline, again, because we have this process automated, because it's all we do, and we know what we're doing, these timelines are pretty rock solid that we agree to. So we're not gonna go over time. And then after delivery, we have support as needed. So often the support isn't needed. This truly is a turnkey, very simple thing. But if there's questions that come up during installation or after the fact, how a system's functioning, I'd say the most common support call we get is people calling and saying, hey, this isn't working the way it's supposed to, because no one's paying as much attention to their system as they do during the transition, right? So they notice things that are working differently than they expected that had always been working that way. But we're available for questions to look into the old system if we need to. But we offer all that support. That's all included in the pricing. There's no additional charge for that. Yeah, and people ask about delivery time frames. You know, that it depends on our workload, but when we're talking about a small to medium job, say less than 20 engines, we're talking about a matter of weeks. So these timelines are pretty quick, and we do always offer expedited delivery if that's needed. All right, well, let's talk through some of the benefits to systems integrators. So there's kind of three uniques we talk about that set us apart from any other option in converting a JCI system over to Niagara. So one is our experience. We've converted several thousand JCI databases to date. Second is our tools. As I mentioned before, over the past 13 years, we've built and refined software tools to automate the majority of the conversion process. And lastly is our focus. So this is all we do, all day, every day, database conversions. Might not sound too exciting to you, but we're pretty jazzed about it. All right, so we'll talk about a few of those benefits, right? So a big one here is accuracy. So if you think about the amount of effort that's required to manually build out a system, and all of the data entry that's required, all of the parameters and configuration that goes into the points, the controllers, the building out of the control logic, the programming of the schedules, that's a lot of clicks on your mouse and keyboard and opens up a lot of potential for error. So the advantage of our tools is that anytime over these several thousand conversions we've done, anytime we've encountered something that wasn't programmed correctly or a mistake was made in how we set it up, we go back and fix it in the software tool. So what that means is that will never be a problem again because the fix is applied to every conversion from there out. So after 13 years, after several thousand conversions, we've reduced the potential of error as close to zero as you can imagine, especially when you compare that to the potential for error in a manual conversion. And then after making that fix in the software, we also build an automated test into the software to validate every time we compile that software that problem cannot happen again. So the accuracy of these conversions is very, very high. So going along with accuracy here, what our tools bring over from from the JCI system. So all the hardware, software, extensions, control logic. Again, the idea here is that we're programming the station so that the JACE becomes a plug-and-play replacement for the top-level Johnson controller. So we've got all of the points and controllers defined. We've got all of the shares, schedule, alarms, history, all of the control logic that was happening in that NAE or SNE, interlocks, multiple commands. I mean, we're dealing with pretty much everything here. Again, so that JACE immediately takes over the system and functions as the previous Metasys system was. All right, another benefit. It would be pretty silly if we were doing a conversion from a proprietary system to an open system, and then in that conversion included things that were locked down and proprietary, right? So all of the programming we do, everything our tools build, everything our engineers do is out in the open using the simple building blocks that we all use in Niagara. We don't use any type of proprietary logic blocks or programming, anything like that, so that when we hand over the stations to the systems integrator, you have full access to everything just as if you built the station yourself. So if you need to make modifications down the road or change things, that's all full and open. We're happy to have you call us for modifications, change things if you want, but you don't have to do that. You have full access to all of the programming. So another benefit to using Kander is the seamless transition. We've talked about this a couple times, so I won't belabor it too much. But again, the idea is that you get the station from us, you install it in your JACE, you pull the trunks out of the SNE or NAE, you plug the trunks into the JACE, the system restores previous function, but now you're in control with all your open access, and Niagara is running the show instead of Metasys. And I also mentioned our support. I'll mention it again. For the first, let's see, so we've been doing these conversions to Niagara for the past 13 years, but we've been in business since 2000. In the first 20 years or so of being in business, we didn't do any type of proactive marketing or sales. It was all word of mouth, and it was all based on our level of customer service and our commitment to the customer. It is very important to us that we achieve unparalleled customer satisfaction, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that everything is right in the way it needs to be. So we do a very good job up front, but on the back end, if there's anything that's not as expected, anything that needs to be done, we're willing to take that next step to make sure that we have a happy customer and that you as a systems integrator has a happy customer. So got two more here. So time savings, right? So as a systems integrator, you've got plenty going on. I haven't met a systems integrator that's been in business long that's sitting around twiddling their thumbs looking for stuff to do, right? So looking at what it takes for an engineer to build these systems by hand and comparing that to the ease of giving us a JCI backup and getting back your complete turnkey N4 stations, the time savings is incredible. And it literally takes us less than an hour what it takes an engineer 3 weeks to do because of all the automation our tools offer. In fact, when we started an endeavor to proactively get the word out about what we do and start doing some sales and marketing activities a couple years ago, one of the first flyers I built on the top said, JCI to N4 in 5 minutes, or JCI to Niagara in 5 minutes. And I had to change that because people were like, you're full of crap, like there's no way. Like people would toss us out because it sounds unrealistic. So I had to change it to something that sounded more realistic, but that's the truth because our tools, they do these conversions in such a short time. So imagine what you could do if you didn't have to worry about that part of the migration project and you just needed to worry about the other parts of taking care of the customer. All right, and this last one here is huge, cost control. I've talked about how cost effective we are and how we compare favorably to your cost of doing it in-house if you do have the expertise to do it. But cost control is something else that's really important to think about. Think about the value of knowing 100% for sure what a big portion of the project is going to cost you versus allocating a number of man hours that on many projects gets blown out of the water. Think about the value of that. When you get a fixed price quote from Kander, you know exactly what it's going to cost in order to turn your JCI backup into complete N4 stations without any question at all. There is a lot of value in that, in not worrying about these hours getting blown out of budget, because when we're dealing with these proprietary systems, you know, usually a system integrators isn't going to have done several thousands of these like we have. Usually this is kind of a small piece of your business doing these retrofits. So there's a lot of estimating involved. And I just can't emphasize enough the value in our fixed pricing that you know exactly what that portion of the project's going to cost you. So, all right, and then we'll be moving to the Q&A in a second here. Here's contact information. We've got our website. We've got the number to the company voicemail. Someone will call you back within an hour or two if you leave a message there, or you can email us hello@withkander.com. I will leave this contact information up during the Q&A as well, so you don't have to rush too fast to write that down. But in conclusion, you know, I really appreciate you guys listening to me before lunch here. You know, we'd really love to help you on these projects. And again, if you're a systems integrator that already does these projects, don't immediately write us off. You know, at least reach out, give us a chance to send you a quote on your next project so that you at least know what you're dealing with. If it's expensive, if it's out of your budget, if you don't want to work with us, that's fine. But at least give us a chance, because you'll be shocked how much easier this makes your life on these retrofit projects. So we'll take some time for Q&A here in a second, but I just really appreciate all of you being here and listening to me. So that's it.
So I have a question.
All right.
So if they tell you that they seen your prezo at Controls Con, do they get like 50% off or something?
50% off, yeah. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm trying for you guys. Oh, I got a question over here.
So any of the naming conventions that Johnson uses when they come to Niagara, I guess your tool probably resolves all that, so it stays under Niagara naming conventions?
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great question. I'll answer even a little bit more than you're asking. But yeah, so our tools take care of any of the, you know, if there's any characters or problems, character limits, you know, it'll convert those names as needed. As far as being within constraints, you know, by default, we bring all the naming conventions over that were in the Johnson system, but one of those line item options we always offer is if you have your own naming conventions you want to conform to, we can insert that into our tool as well. But yes, any names that would cause problems in the system, those are automatically taken care of.
And as far as custom logic and the interlocks, like in NEs too, that all comes over?
Yep, all that comes over, interlocks.
Easy to find, like in folders, you put it under the devices or under separate folders? Or?
Yep, so we build out a whole programming folder with its own wire sheets that has all the logic organized, and then we build the proxy points to connect to the actual hardware so that it's all real easy to find and read. Yep, thanks for the questions.
There was one over here I seen. Thank you.
So you said there's no extra licensing or anything associated to this after you're done?
No extra licensing for us. So if you're dealing with if there's N2 protocol, and you're going to be using a non-FX JACE, you'll have to get licensed for the max line N2 driver, because that's what we program for. But there's no additional licensing or subscription for us.
Okay,
so
that answers it.
What was that?
That answers my question.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Any other questions?
Thanks for the question, by the way.
Here it comes, Sam.
you said the Max2 and a driver, the Max line driver for the N2.
Yep, yes.
What about if it's an FX Explorer, Jace, with...
Yep, if it's an FX Jace, we program for the native N2 driver that comes with the FX. But if it's any other brand, if you'll be using a Honeywell, Distech Jace, anything like that, then we program for the Max line. Yep, thanks for the question.
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you, Matt.
All right, thanks so much.